Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Real Estate Agent Advantage podcast. My name is Lorne Cooper, and today we have a very special guest, Mr. Jay Miller. Jay, say hello to the good people.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome, Jay. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself? Why don't we dig in a little bit and say kind of what got you into real estate in the first place?
Okay. Well, my background is, everybody says their background's a little different, right? But it's a little different in that really the truth is I got into real estate because my wife came home and said that we were having twins. And so I wanted to sell my house to get some money to pay for these twins, or I just needed to figure some new things out. Although I took business and marketing in college, I left college early because I used my OSAP money to buy music gear because I was a musician, a singer-songwriter.
I heard that about you. We're two peas in a pod in that respect, because my background.
We are, yeah, I know. This is fun, and it's great for the people listening and watching because Lorne and I have never this isn't set up. We've talked on the phone a few times for business just about properties, but we're just going for it. So it's kind of fun that we're similar.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was trying to get a recording contract, and I actually did get a recording contract with Polygram Records back in the 90s. And, toured and, did the whole thing and it was fun and all that kind of crazy stuff that goes on. Had some cool highlights, opened up for Alanis Morissette when she was in her heyday and this and that.
Cool.
So, yeah, so lots of fun. Music business is sort of you laugh until you cry. Had a publishing deal as well to write songs and this and that. But the truth is that the music business in Canada is quite difficult. So my business background was there for me as well. Yes, I did leave college to pursue music because it was sort of starting to take off a little bit. But I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. Always had lots of my own businesses and such as I was coming up as a young guy. So it was in my DNA. And this is where I was looking around. My wife came home, said, "Hey, we're having twins." That's kind of a funny story. She showed me the ultrasound, and I said, "Hey, I know what an ultrasound is." And she said, "No, A and B, dummy, A and B, right?" Wow. So it wasn't the two pictures of the one baby. They only got one each, which is a plight of twins, right? So one each. So I had to look around. And I thought, okay, well, maybe we'll sell the house, do something different, looking at all my options. And then I said, well, maybe I could sell the house, right? So I reached out to, my wife actually did it, reached out to a local realtor to say, they had one of these FSBO kits, right? For sale by owner kits, so sell your own house. And then what the booklet, the whole time the booklet is just telling you how hard it's going to be so that you call a realtor, right? This is the FSBO kit we all know. So I sort of went, yeah, I've always been a believer in, hiring people within their unique talents. And I'm sure you're like that too, Lorne, because you're a musician. So obviously it's like, yeah, you can play drums, but when you get a guy that can really hit the kit, it's different from you, right? Yeah. You're a guitar player,
exactly.
Singer. So it's just a different vibe. So I said, okay, I'm going to look at that. So then I started taking the course, and it was really in my wheelhouse because as I was, saving for college, and as a young guy I started working very young, at 8 I had a paper route, and at 12 I worked in a restaurant, and and I was a Dickie D ice cream guy, and I worked construction.
Wait a second, you were on the bike with the thing?
I was on the bike with the thing, yeah.
Amazing.
Amazing. Dingle dingle dingle, yeah. So the whole bit, yeah. So I did the whole, just always working, right? A hardworking person, young guy. And so I did construction a bunch, and I really enjoyed it. I always enjoyed carpentry. I always enjoyed, the technical component of it as well. That runs in my family, the technical side through my dad's side, et cetera. So when I got into the real estate things, I had all these years of, I had demoed houses, worked for a company demoing houses, and then working with all the trades to rebuild the house and such. And, I was the young guy. So I was the step and fetch it, the guy but I learned a lot from the HVAC guys, the electrical guys, the roofers, I did it all. So when I started the course, it was really falling into line for me. That, the snowball started rolling pretty quick. I understood it all. It was in my wheelhouse. And then I got licensed, and the babies were born, right at the same time. And I left my then day job at the time, because music, as it pays, and then it doesn't, pays and it doesn't. So you have to do these other things. And I started my my real estate career. And
what year was this?
That's how I got into the business.
What year was this?
This was 2003. My boys, who are now 6'1" and 2" sort of thing, and 8, coming up on 19 years old. They were born in November, so it was just the next year, about February 2003. So I'm 18 plus years in the biz.
And where were you when you started out? Which area?
You know what? I really want to. I think this is an important part for what you're doing, Lorne, which I applaud. And we're not going to do the huge mutual admiration society here, but a little bit. You're doing this podcast. You're just doing it from your heart. I love that. That's a big part of where I kind of want to go with what we're talking about. I started at Remax Hallmark, and that company is a huge company that you'd know very well.
Large,
You've probably done lots of business with them. And many of you guys listening know Remax Hallmark. I think they have about 1,800 agents. But at the time they didn't. They had about 400 agents, still a big company. But they weren't anywhere in York region. It was all in the city. And the reason I joined Remax Hallmark was because I joined my friend, okay? I worked with my friend. So I wanted to get started in the business. And I know that a lot of you getting started in the business, you struggle. And I think, Lorne, you've mentioned this on your podcast.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I started as an assistant, right? Like I had babies just born, like literally weeks old. We were short of cash. We lived in a 700 square foot home. We didn't sell it, but it was 700 square feet, 2 bedrooms. And one was 2 cribs and one was us.
Yeah.
And so I just didn't have a year's money. I didn't have a year's money to go and say, hey, if I suck, it's okay. There was no suck, it's okay. There was babies crying in the next room, right? So I joined my buddy, and I said, I'll start even as an assistant. And I was willing to carry his briefcase and just listen to him on the phone and all that. And that's a big part of the first thing I want to say to anybody starting is humility is a huge, huge thing. Being coachable and being willing to learn, and not coming from ego and a place where you're going to be a big shot and you're going to go and lease a fancy car and put the, all, what did they say? All show and no go, or all fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
That's crap. Like, yeah, I've never believed in that. It's just a lie.
Yeah.
You're lying. So, I mean, we all know lying. It's generally a bad business practice. So, so I just didn't believe in it. So I started with him. And
how long had he been in the business at the time?
Pardon?
How long had your friend been in the business at the time?
Funny enough, he was about 18 years. So now, and he's still a good friend of mine. He's about 36 years in. Yeah.
So he's still in the business?
Pardon me?
Is he still in the business?
Oh yeah.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. So he's a great friend of mine. He plays, so I still play music, Lorne, in a band, but we only play for charity now. So we never play a gig unless it's raising money for something. Right. And he's the drummer.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So this is where we go back. So when I went off into music, he did the, like, the more practical thing or whatever. Right. Although I don't want to paint it that way. I have no regrets. I loved being in the music business. I loved all of it. So there's wonderful people business creatives and such that and the people I meet, music is just something that really resonates with everybody. And so every single person I meet in every home, that exposure has always helped me.
Absolutely, to relate.
Yeah.
And I find that a lot of creatives are drawn to real estate or sales in general. I don't know what it is about it. Maybe it's the expressiveness or the freedom to kind of explore different avenues. But I'm finding a lot of people are coming from a different creative background that end up in real estate.
Absolutely. Well, any entrepreneur needs to be creative. It's just that's we are part of creation, right?
Right.
So it's like being creative is who we are at our core, in our essence. And so um, that's an essential sort of teaching as well inside of what we're talking about in this business,
Hmm.
as far as that goes. So just to sort of like move through it quick for you, I'll tell you. So I worked with my friend as an assistant, and then I remember he had a team of people. So I remember, they wanted me to just stay being an assistant, right? Because I
Right.
worked.
To help everybody with whatever they needed.
Yeah. And so, and obviously my goal was to move into sales. Like I was licensed, right?
Right.
So I wanted to move into sales, and I remember the little group at the time, some of them were not so happy that I would transition in, because then it was sort of this scarcity mindset of like,
Right.
won't have enough, they won't get as many leads, and now we're sharing the pie, all that kind of stuff, which is another huge thing for everybody to realize that that is not the way to be. So I said to my friend, I said, look, I'd love to trade. I know that you've got some, you're known in your area, but like you don't have to give me leads in your area. So just to put that in perspective, imagine working for a team where you said to your team, like, I won't take leads where you're known. Okay. It was pretty bold. I said, just give me the lower level internet leads, and that wherever, like I'll take them at Etobicoke and whatever. So I took all of the tough stuff, and I just worked it hard. I just, I remember calling these internet leads, and if I get a fax number, I'd write a little letter saying, hi, are you thinking of buying, selling real estate, and fax it to them, right?
Very nice.
Yeah. So I took all of that stuff and I started selling, right? It started coming together for me very, very quickly. I was putting together a bunch of deals. And so it was very apparent in a short period of time that I wasn't able to do both jobs. So I trained another person, and then I moved into sales at that point. And then I stayed with my friend and was loyal to him for another couple years, you know?
Okay.
Yeah. So, and worked really hard. I was at that time, I was probably doing, production wise, like I think my second year I did 27 deals. And just to put it money
Wow.
wise in perspective, I don't think I made 100,000 that year. 27 deals. So
Wow.
the way the market is there. Yeah. So I
Right.
don't think I think I just missed a 100K that year on my second year doing 27 ends.
But still a big step up from kind of struggling while getting out of the music business with twins. I mean, that definitely helps when you're approaching that anyway.
Lorne, when I did a deal years ago for 527, okay, and I couldn't believe it happened. Like I was walking around bumping into walls. Like I couldn't believe that it happened, man. I'm
Yeah.
sitting there going, I can't believe it. They would call me for a buyer visit, and I'd just be like, I'd stand at attention, like whenever you want to go, right? And now it's like a 527 deal. Like it's they're scarce. Like you
Yeah.
got to go to, you know, like way up north in that, because prices are just insane.
And for people listening, to the podcast that are either overseas or in the States, we're fairly fortunate in the price point, in that sense anyway, in that
Crazy.
our prices are through the roof.
Hmm. Pardon me for drinking there, but yeah, no, we're nuts. Like our prices are crazy, man.
Yeah.
Like we sit with young people, and I think back to when I bought that little 700 square foot home for, it was like 150 grand.
Wow.
And it was in the city. So, up here that would have been cheaper. Um, for those of you who don't know, we're north of the city in Newmarket and of Toronto. And we got 10% together, right? So that's like, brother, like we got $15,000 together. Now $15,000, like the young people out there, it breaks my heart. Like they need $250,000 to get into a house to have an $800,000 mortgage.
Yeah, it's definitely tough affordability wise, for sure.
Really, really, really tough. I actually think that there should be some changes, which we could talk about, but we won't get into it too much that way. I'll finish my little story now for you. So I traded with my friend for a couple years, and I mean, I think my third year, I forget, but it was a lot. Like I sold 40 homes or something, and then like it was time for me to go. I was bringing ideas to the table, marketing ideas, like I was doing all this stuff inside of it as well. Not to take any credit away from him, because he is a fabulous realtor, fabulous, top, really, really smart dude. And so grateful for the opportunity and his mentorship and friendship throughout. So grateful.
I'd love to ask you a little bit about that. So, in many scenarios, in team situations, a lot of people often, when they're coming into the business, have a fear that they're going to lose themselves, lose their own identity. And in different teams, as you know, there are different team structures. So, was your friend willing to kind of help train and share and show you how he was doing things, or was it one of these like, the wizard is behind the curtain and here's a lead, go take it and just be quiet and be grateful kind of situations?
Right.
Because there are those too. You see them, right?
Yeah. No, you know what it was? He wasn't, well, first of all, because I started as an admin,
Right.
like as the assistant, right? I knew how to do all that stuff, right? I
Right.
had to, and I was doing it, right? So in that case, no, but many of the salespeople there wasn't that many. It was a small team, like 3, 4 people,
Okay.
right? Maybe 5. Many of the salespeople, they didn't even care, Lorne, about it. Like there's kind of 2 different types. We were talking about the creative type, like sort of
Right.
like you and all that. And then there's types where it's like, I don't want to know about that. I'm good at the table. I can talk to people. I can connect. I can, hopefully empathize, some things like this. But yeah, I'm not interested in figuring out an advertisement and then calling the guy and then proofing it. I'm not
Right.
interested in all that stuff. So there's kind of the 2 different mindsets. No, short answer is no. He was totally cool. He was open with it. But I will say this I know people worry about their identity starting in the business,
Right.
but I actually, and I run an independent company, as you know, we're going to get there in the story,
Yeah.
that operates like a team, but it's an open book. Everybody knows anything they want to know anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I honestly think that it's an incredible platform to learn from. I mean, you're right there with a top producing person, like, for lack of a better example, myself, somebody comes in, they learn from me. There's been thousands of transactions under my belt. I'm an open book. They can call me anytime. A lot of realtors I see out there, when I talk to them, they say they're really busy, but they don't sell that many homes.
Right.
And they are really busy because that's real estate. Like you get to the 1-yard line and then you don't get the ball in the end zone, and then you go back to center field and you start again, and you're busy, right? You're crazy. And then you don't, whereas as one of my primary purposes right now in my business is obviously I run it, and and the coaching and the mentorship and all that stuff. To have that person to talk to work through in that moment, that situational coaching where now, you can satisfy everybody, do it fairly, and create a transaction
Mm-hmm.
instead of going back to center field. That's crucial, I think, when you start, because you need to get it rolling.
Yeah, there's the 2 things I find that, if I had to do it again, and I've said this many times, I would definitely have joined a team knowing what I know now. Uh, Again, you have to find the right team, the right fit, the right culture, all of that. But when you do, you have such an undeniable advantage when you can learn about getting business, how to get business, and how to do the business at the same time in an environment that really fosters that. Then you're off and running.
Totally. And you know what? The way I look at it is I've had numerous people join my company, leave my company. I've let people go, like all that kind of stuff. No, and
Sure.
always with love and care and all that. But you come in, you start, I mean, you learn a lot. And then if you go on your own, like you know a lot. And you also usually have a greater database of people that you've now worked with. So instead of like doing 2 deals your first year or 3, and then 3 or 4 the next year, and you get through 5 years and you've accumulated 20 deals, you've got 60 deals on the go in 3, 4 years. And, you've got a little database.
Right.
And the famous thing for realtors is, of course, marketing. I'm going to market. So they're going to market all these people that they don't know, rather than, focusing on the people who already like them.
Right.
Stay in touch with the people, call the people who already like they love you. You did a great job for them. There's huge return in that. So, so that's important, really important. So, my transition from the team was just that, like it's all with complete love. We, I was, it was sort of meant to be. It was just meant to be. It's not an ego move. I wasn't trying to do anything of the sort. It was always, everything I always did was out of contribution. Of course I wanted to create a business as well, but the thrust was to contribute, and that's why I'm on this podcast with you, because it attracted me. But that was the core thrust always. And I just wanted the autonomy and the creativeness, right? The creation, right? That whole
Right.
creativity component, because I obviously, you can contribute to somebody else inside of their business, but you need to let them, they're the creator of their business. And so,
Yes, it's their vision. It's like a band leader, same thing. The band leader or the business leader has their vision, and you're there to help contribute to that. But when you have your own, absolutely, it's natural to want to go and express that and develop it and see what you can do. And were you able to take the systems that you used and just sort of put your twist on them, or did you basically start fresh?
you know what, there was some copy and paste, as I call it. And that's kind of like why a lot of people would be listening to this, because they're looking for a copy and paste to their business. There was some copy and paste, but I'm a big fan of allowing the creative process to awaken, So I did a lot of things were very, very original. Not even like, I coached with a couple people. One guy
Hmm.
was Coach Ken. Another guy was Andy Harrington. And Coach Ken, unfortunately, Andy Harrington passed away.
Yeah,
Really
I
good,
know Andy. I
really good
knew Andy.
guy.
Yeah.
Great script guy. Like, it's like a therapist, right? Like you go to a doctor, they're the back doctor, they're the brain doctor, so
Right.
he was a great script guy. And tough as nails kind of person, so it was interesting because but he's very heartfelt, so we connected on that level. And then Coach Ken is an elite, like, super high end
Like Ken Goodfellow?
and good fellow, yeah.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so and both of them were for very short stints, and that's it. Other than that, it's always been a creative process.
Hmm.
And in both of those instances, I would love to bring stuff to them. I love contributing. So, I would get on the call with Coach Goodfellow and say, "Hey, I've got this new thing called the Miller Zone, and I want to tell you about it, and you can share it with your guys, So he'd go, "Cool," So it would be like I'd be giving to the coach, right?
Right.
And the same with Andy, and so try to be as symbiotic as possible. But other than that, a huge fan of allowing the flow of creativity to move forward. And so yeah, yes, of course, right? We all need to start somewhere. So
Have a
there's that
foundation of something.
implementation of learning
Yeah.
from somebody else that happens. But at some point, at some point, right, you need to go from that copier, that imitator, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I know that comes off a little bit derogatory, but I kind of mean it that way because I want to encourage people to open up their creativity, right? And then there's amazing emulators. So a lot of the times, sometimes an imitator can actually be so good at imitating, they're better than the person who originated it at what they're doing, and they blow up their business in numbers, and they're just like more organized, more focused and driven and consistent and such. So they actually build a bigger business from someone else's ideas. But
Right.
then there's the innovation, and innovators aren't always the most successful, right? So, but they're remarkable, and I think that that's our unique divine essence, right? Coming out, and that's just hugely important to me. So there's a little bit on that whole creative thing. Yeah, I did take on stuff from my bud because he's an incredible systems guy,
Yeah.
right?
What kind
Um,
of systems did he have in place that you implemented, that you found? Like, how did he build his business? Because the amazing thing in this business is you can make a business off of standing on the corner and shouting your name. Like, I've seen people become successful doing anything and everything. So as long as they're committed and consistent. So what was it that your friend did that built his business to the level that it was? And then what of that did you take and implement in yours and then build upon?
well, first of all, we were very similar guys in that we were we built our business with consistency and discipline, right? So this is like key at anything in life, right? You need to be consistent, be disciplined, and have consistency. You just do,
Does
period.
that boil down to like a daily schedule that you would follow where you
Yeah.
would do this,
Yeah.
whatever that may
First of
be?
all, yeah. Have a schedule, and follow your schedule and hit it all the time.
Mm.
That's number one. So we were similar that way, and and he had some specific things I liked was for lead times, and I do this now. So when for lead times inside of my office, what I do is I have it where it's like, we block book times like most offices do, but you get everything, like we share each other's leads, right? So in other words, like we could, like I share all of my business. So I'm a trading broker of record, but I'm not a like I used to be. Like I used to do 5 evals in a day, all like frequently, and negotiate 2 deals the same day, and was really high energy. And honestly, even in those days, I had gas in the tank still. Like it was great.
Mhm.
Now it's I have a different role, and
Right.
so we share it. We share the leads, right? So if somebody wants an evaluation, that goes to other people. And it goes, like I can go to past clients, this and that, just to make sure, and I'll even go and help or whatever. But it goes, like we share it. And then if that produces an open house, which right now in COVID we don't have, other people on the team, they can host. We share the hosting of open houses. And for those of you who don't know, open houses are great lead generation. If somebody doesn't want to buy the house, they might be looking for somebody to help them. So this is something that we did. So, and same with the internet leads, pages, like, this and that, they all go into that lead slot. So he had that. So I've done some changes to it, but like essentially he was like 9 to 12, 12 to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 9. And if you had that slot, you got everything, right? You
Right.
got everything. Now, listings, you had to have a certain skill set. Like you don't join the real estate business and go and sell somebody's most significant asset. Like you have to get to a certain level to be able to do that. So there is extensive training and such. But yeah, those lead times, I still do it like that. Not the I change hours, and sometimes we shift weeks and I get creative with it.
Mhm.
But yeah, that whole thing where it goes out, like all the leads, Lorne, go out to everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody sees all the leads. So it's not like you don't see the leads, but if it's not your lead time, well, it's not your lead,
Right. Exactly.
you know? So you can't take it. Truth is, my modification is a certain amount of time passes and that lead's sitting there like it's open. Like you can't just ignore
Yeah.
the lead, right?
That
So
makes sense. I have a question for you regarding, because you mentioned, sometimes for past clients, you would still go out with the other agent for like a listing presentation or something of the like. Is there ever an issue that I mean, the name of the team is your name.
mhm.
Has there ever been an issue when you transitioned a little bit out of production where people said, no, 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 I want to work with Jay. It's Jay's name. There are a lot of people that have their name is the team name.
Yeah. Um, the and mine's even sort of another level because it's a brokerage. So
Yes,
it's not
exactly.
like J Miller Team at Remax, it's J Miller Real Estate, right?
Right.
Limited.
Yeah,
So
it was Jay Miller team at Remax, right?
yeah.
And then transitioned to this, which we'll get into in a minute. But so yeah,
Yeah,
how is that?
so I have had that, and I'm always willing to go and be part of it, and I'm very transparent around that. So it's not one of the, I know that some teams operate where like the team lead goes to a listing appointment and then you never see him again. I would never do that. I would close the doors, stay home, and play guitar. Like I'm not hurting people. I'm not. It's not about numbers for me. It's not. It's about human being a human being. The being the operative part. So I could never do it. So what I do is I'll go if they feel that way and be with them, but I'm with my partner and I say, they're the point person on the file. And if some people don't, I have had people even say, then if that's the case, no. So then it's okay. Like I'm not, it's like, that's how we operate and that's that. Um, the most important thing, Lorne, in that instance is that I promote, and I know a lot of teams struggle with this, I promote everybody, right? So if you get a flyer from my company in town, it's the whole team,
Right.
right? Sure, the odd time there's me, but way like far fewer that happens than the whole team. For every like 5 or 6 advertisements of all of us, so people have a firm knowledge that we are a group,
Hmm.
there's like one of me, just like, okay, that's the guy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's it. And then
Well,
back
you're
to,
definitely established at this point. I would think it's maybe was more of an issue when you first started your team that people were like, well, why am I not working with you?
yeah.
Because there are a lot of team leaders that listen to this podcast as well. So I'm just wondering, how you dealt with that in the beginning. It was basically, I assume, from what you said, you just show up, you explain how the process works. This is your point guy. I'm still here in the background to help if needed. Like that's basically it, correct?
You have to turn me into we,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes that works, but you need to invest in it. You need to spend money to invest in promoting these other people. So then the whole thing comes in, and I know there's team leaders listening right now going, but then somebody leaves. And then you've got this picture, and everybody knows the picture, and the person's gone, and you got to change the picture, and you got to, and then you got to promote that. It's like, yeah, you do. That's right. Exactly right. Kind of like, is stuff hard? Yeah, stuff's hard, right? And then
Yeah.
you do the hard work, and that's how it works. Or you promote yourself, and it's false, but you're a team, and it's kind of false advertising, right? And they're like, hey,
Right.
who are you? It's like people in our community, they know the team. They know that they call in for the people on the team. They do. They call in. They go, I'd like to get this person to come and give me an evaluation. Period. And it's not even a past client because
Yeah,
they
that's great.
offer their name around and they know and they've gotten to know them. It's very important that, and also just to build a team that is a real team, you need to do that. I mean, how could you, how could you do it the other way? I know guys do and gals, but I'm just not a fan of that. It's
How
not.
many people?
It's not my approach.
Yeah, how many people are on the team right now or in the brokerage?
Right now, I think I have 15 sales reps.
Okay.
A couple of them are part time, and truthfully, I never had a part time before. It's an experiment that I've been doing for the last like year, and I'm not, to be honest with you, I think part time in real estate is very difficult. That's why I've
Yes.
done it for all these years. But when you meet a good person and this
Yeah,
kind of
I agree. Listen, I think it's tough to get started in the business, and it's always very nerve wracking, especially for somebody coming from a salary kind of background. And to walk away from that is very difficult for people. So I feel like, if there's a small transition period, part time for the first year or two, to get in and transition in, that's great. But at that point, I think it's sort of sink or swim, like go or back off.
That's it. No, 100%. At some point, you have to just go all in.
Yeah.
You have to have a knowing that it's meant to be at some point, right? And that's a huge thing for me.
And make the
So,
commitment.
yeah,
You know,
exactly,
how can you
exactly.
really
Kind of
commit
like,
to anything if you're half in and half out?
right, right. You know, I liken it to like you've got one foot on the dock and one foot in like the canoe or the boat. It's like, that's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like you got to get in you can stay on the dock and it's cool. The dock's beautiful, right? We all love sitting on the dock, sitting on the dock of the bay, right? But you can get in the boat and the boat ride is really cool,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So, a lot of the time that fear is overwhelming for people, right?
Yeah.
So
Especially if they're on their own. I think in a team environment, it helps to have that kind of support system.
totally, especially when you have it, when the culture is built where it is about contribution. And so it's like, I mean, Matt and Cindy and Greg and these guys, they go on evals with other people too.
Mm-hmm.
They don't, they go, yeah, I'll come with you. Like, let's go out together. Yeah, let's go door knock together. And it's not like we share even in the actual sale, right? We go, okay, well, so how did this work out? Like, it's not just like, static. It's like, how did it work out? Well, these two people kind of like, they got the call, but they knew this person, this and that. And we go, okay, well, so let's sit down and let's work it out.
Yeah.
Let's figure it out so it's fair and everybody feels good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, because that's just good business to me. It's like everybody should do well. And the sellers and all of the clients need to do extraordinary well. Like our whole modus operandi here is to deliver amazing results. Otherwise, putting a sold sign up is anybody can put a sold sign up, especially in this market. What was the actual nuances of that sale? How did it go? What was the client experience? What was the marketing around it? How did it feel for them? And what was the final actual result from a business standpoint, as far as dollars and cents goes? I'm very particular about that. Like, don't come here with a bad sale and an excuse.
Right.
That means there's somebody at the back end of that just,
It's not happy.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not about, and then we put another unit up and it did, for them to lose 50 grand, like, and from a commission standpoint, it's marginal. And I know nobody intentionally thinks that way, but that's actually the truth of how it shakes out. You get the sale, it was 50 less than what they were hoping for or what you set as an expectation. For them, it's 50, for you, it's 2 grand and next sale. It's not meant that way. Nobody's intentionally does things like that, but that's the shakedown, right?
Right, exactly. All right,
So
so let's get back on track with the story, because I took
okay, back to the story.
my apologies. I keep digging in when there's some interesting bits, so sorry. You're leaving the team, you're going off on your own. Was the intention to start a team right away? Did you do that, or did you go off solo? How did that look, that transition?
Went off solo. For anybody thinking of doing that or even just starting solo, because I know a lot of people come from a business background, so they feel like, no, I really should do this by myself. I'm not going to do it with a team. And I don't like the idea of splits like 50-50 or anything like that. And I'm not going to dwell on that. That's your personal take on money. Some people like focus on money a lot. And I find that people that really just are really hung up on splits, like business eludes them. Okay. So,
So that's the split. You're referring to the split with the team leader, like in a team situation?
Yeah. So I went alone, but I didn't do it because of the split. Well, hang on a second. That's not fair. Of course, that's a factor, but it wasn't like my main factor. Like,
right.
I've interviewed people who call me and say, "Hey, Jay, I've seen your name. Da 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 da. Like, can I come and meet with you?" And then I tell them the split, and then they say, "Okay, well, at this company, it's free, right?" And I go, "Okay, so 100% of nothing is nothing. It's your cost, right? So if you
Right.
have no sales, you got 100% of it." It's cool with me. And eventually that will turn into something if you stay with it. But it can take time, significant time, to establish yourself, to actually
Yeah.
have transactions to make things go, um, and become more prolific, right?
Yeah,
So
and I think when it comes down to splits, whether that's a split with the brokerage or a split with the team leader or both, it has to be value. If you're offering value, if you're getting 100% of nothing, like you said, and you're getting no value, then fine, it is what it is. You're off on your own, go dangle by yourself. But if you're paying for something, hopefully you're getting the value in return and the support that you need to grow together.
exactly, exactly. And that is key. That is key.
Yeah,
So, and that's where the infrastructure, the marketing, the brand, these variables come into play.
right.
Yeah, sure, that was a small factor for sure. It was really more of a creative meant to be thing when I left. Um,
You had some ideas that you wanted to implement, and you wanted to
yeah,
kind of
I
take that
was,
and run.
I actually, while I was there, Lorne, started my own website, and I was doing all these modified things to try to be respectful of the team leader, my friend.
Right.
Okay, I'm gonna do this and I'll do this and I'll put both names and within and I'll put this rider and you put this and then and so it was getting convoluted. And as soon as anytime something you're working out is convoluted, it's just the stranger the outcome, right? It's
Right.
like a diabolical plan, the stranger the outcome, right?
Yeah, keep it
Just
simple.
so true. So you need to keep it simple. So at that point, it was like it's time. So I went out on my own. I went by myself,
In the
and I
same market or a different market?
not in his market. That's another unique thing too. I completely moved my family to Newmarket, okay, and never traded in his market again. Like, hang on. I had a couple listings in thousands of sales in that whole time. So I actually left his market, didn't cut his grass at all, right?
Yeah.
So did like 3 years there and then left and then came brand new. Now I was already trying, like I was already starting. Remember I told you I built a website and
Right.
I had some listings. So I was already starting, but I was nobody. Like I was nobody. At that time, Craig Proctor was around. You ever hear of Craig Proctor?
Oh
So
yeah.
Craig Proctor, was a 500-600 a year deal guy, a team, right? A very formidable, one of the team innovators. That whole thing where it's like your home sold or I'll buy it. I
That was
think
his thing.
it's him who did it. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah. So when I came up here, like I was going out to listing appointments and, my conversion rates were low because they were like, who are you? And you're with a city brokerage. And back then there was still long distance to the city. So when you got, and people had landlines, right? Like there was lots of people with landlines at the
Sure.
time in like 2003, 4, 5, 6, that whole thing. So people calling to, my office to book an appointment, local agents would be like, it's long distance from and this and that, right? Now, of course, they had numbers, but then what would happen is I would compete with them in the homes and they'd go, oh, you mean the guy from the city? And that didn't help me, right?
Right.
So it was tough going like you. I was doing my thing, but I was committed. And what I would do is I would run all the GTA to make things happen. And to this day, when I meet people and they say, well, I've got, these 3 good clients on the go. I'm showing them homes. I'm doing this. I've got this. And if they buy a home, then there's going to be a listing, this kind of thing. I always just remember that, like back then I would have, 27 on the go. I would just work, 10-hour days and have like I'd be showing homes in Etobicoke and Oshawa and in East.
Everywhere. You were running around.
I was running around and I was establishing my brand here, but I just didn't have it yet, right? And I was competing against the number 1 guy in Canada and some of these things in Remax. Like Craig had a lot of sales
Yeah.
in Newmarket, so it was tough to compete. And there was other formidable realtors as well, of course, some
Of
wonderful
course.
that have all become friends.
So
But
how do you do that? Because there are people that, I mean, you knew going in, you're going up against a monster at the time. Like the guy had huge market share. That will scare a lot of people away. So what was your approach to establish yourself as a brand against that, we'll call them, competitor?
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about was just that I just had a knowing. I just had a knowing that it was going to work out. It wasn't even like I didn't think, I didn't hope. I just knew that I could do it. I knew I could do it. I just, something inside of my
So it was a
essence.
self-confidence in, knowing that you had the discipline to execute on the things that already worked. And don't let me put words in your mouth, but this is what I'm taking from it. Things that you knew already worked coming up from, the other team, putting that into place and knowing that if you stick to it and you do it enough, it will work in that market.
I would, fair enough. I would say that there had to be some of that, but there's more to it. There's more
Okay.
to it, Lorne, um, in that, a lot of, okay, so we build our businesses by motivation, right? We talk about mindset. We do all this kind of stuff all the time. This is kind of what we're doing here now, right? And it's easier to build a business by motivation than it is by inspiration. And this is where we get into our creative stuff that you and I are kindred spirits on, right? So because motivation comes from our thoughts, while inspiration, it comes from our soul. And I know for some people that's like, well, what's that? It's like, it's very important.
Yeah.
Very important. Okay. So it just seems that the things that we know in our mind are more accessible than the things that are delivered to us through our soul. And so, the difference is when we're motivated. So like, what's the difference between motivated and inspired? Because a lot of people go, I was inspired by Joe Smith's wonderful blah, blah, blah. And I was inspired by this or that. It's like, were you, or were you just motivated by it? So you saw them doing something that you thought was cool. It's an idea that they're implementing. So you are motivated to implement it yourself, right? The difference between motivation and inspiration is when you're inspired, the idea, you don't grab an idea, the idea grabs you. You are pulled by that inspiration that happens to you, right?
Yeah.
And so I never, very strangely enough, here's Craig doing like literally in Newmarket something like 20% of the entire, 30% of the entire market share. Like the guy's
Wow.
doing, of 1,200 sales in Newmarket in a year, he's doing 300 of them, right? So, I mean, and I was just like, yeah, no, that's no problem. It's good. I knew it. And that inspiration, it does come from the power of God and creation. It does. It's the third dimension, right? It's a different dimension. It's not mental or physical, it's spiritual. And I know people go, well, I can't implement. Like, what does that mean? I need to know, like, make 100 calls, put 100 pennies
Right.
in a jar. That's what they need to know. But the thing is, you can make 1 billion calls and get less productivity than somebody who just has a knowing. Let me give you another thing in this, just to try to make it more tangible. Think of somebody you really love, you like, but I mean like crazy, like for a lot of people, this is their kids, right?
Right.
Some it's their spouse, their mom, their dad, somebody you just like really love. As you're thinking about them, and you really give them a moment, it changes. You don't just think that you love them. It becomes an experience. Like
There's a
you're
physiological
experiencing.
response to it.
Yeah. You don't just think you love them, and you don't just believe you love them either, right? It's more than that. They're part of you. You're intertwined and connected on a spiritual level to a point where it's meant to be. For some reason, the way that the dominoes have fallen inside the intertwining of all of the energy that flows in the universe, you are meant to be that. Like do you have a daughter, a son?
I have 3 daughters.
3 daughters. I love it. Thank you. So anyway, one of your, but all of your daughters, let's go all, because of
Yeah.
course it's all the same for all, you know, it's for some reason, like, and you're learning from them and there's all this stuff and they're learning from you and there's this intertwined thing that happens. Well, the same thing can apply to your business. It's all just a matter of like where you sit with that. Now, I know that there are people that go, I
Can't
can't do it.
relate, can't feel. Yeah, yeah, I hear you.
I can't. And I understand it, but you know, it's big, it's important, it's hugely important. So as far as just to jump around a little bit on this note, like, so I know that there's people out there that go, no, you should hit it in the morning, do your workout, whatever, get to your most important task, you know, grind, hustle, right?
Right.
Okay,
Right.
I get it. Grind, hustle, right? This
Right.
whole thing. So I obviously believe in working hard. But the very first thing I do is, you know, in the morning is just for you to know, like, because I know you probably do it too, play some guitar. I
Yep.
know there's a lot of musicians out there that their guitar is sitting there with dust on it. And I'm telling you, that is a connection to your soul. And you need to pick up that guitar every day. Just don't, I know you think you need an hour, you need 10 minutes, you need 20 minutes, connect to that music, right? Play something, be inspired by it, right? Be inspired by the music that is flowing through you into your guitar. Prayer, right? Meditation. I work out every day. And I know there's people going, nah, I got to hit up, get a coffee in me, go and knock out 3,000 phone calls. Guys, honestly, I know there's people that knock 200 doors a day, blah, blah, blah. I never did any of that. Never did any of that. Knocked a few, didn't like it. You know what I mean? I worked hard, but it was a snowball effect of the energy, the contribution, staying connected to God, staying connected through prayer, meditation, being, you know, realizing that you know, the energy that flows through all of creation helps us, and we are part of it. You know, I love nature. I spend a lot of time in nature. A lot of people, that is a huge spiritual awakening for them. And if for those of you who are going to go walk in your local park, don't bring your phone. Walking through the park, you got to feel the trees. You got to be, you know, you will just, you know, the law of attraction. It's like the law of attraction again. Like, how can I even do that? Well, truthfully, God works inside of your work too. And I know this is off center for many people, but in a world of that claims that that's full of tolerance and inclusion, once you bring up topics like I'm saying right now, all of a sudden it's like, hang on a second, I'm not talking about that. Like, so, like we got to watch our hypocrisy around how we operate, right? We get intellectual enough to know what to say, like inclusion and tolerance, and then turn around
Yeah.
and I'm not doing it.
I think, well, you bring up a good point. And like we had mentioned earlier, there are so many different types of people in this industry, you know, that this can resonate with a good chunk of them that just haven't heard it yet. You know what I mean? With the people that are just saying pound the ground, pound the phones, pound the door, blah, blah, blah. They don't connect with that, and they'll connect with this. So it's great that we have different messages, different points of view from different people. And you know, by all means have built a very successful business over time. So everything that you say is worth listening to, unless you say something like, I like chopped liver, in which case you have no idea what the hell you're talking about. But but you know what I'm saying? I mean, everyone has a valid perspective to share. And the fact that you're willing to come out and share it, you know, I really appreciate that. So thank you very much. I didn't want to interrupt you. So keep going. Let's get back into it. Why don't we talk about, I mean, it's very important, I think, to have that belief and the right mindset and coming from the right place always. And you know, a place of abundance, a place of really caring about the people that you're working with and working for. And that leads to a lot of success in and of itself, just because people can feel the authenticity coming from you. You're not just another notch on the belt, which we both know there are plenty of those out there too, but it's a very different experience that I think you try to provide, and I do as well. So how does that physically manifest into business when you've got that inner belief and peace and feeling of, I know that I'm capable and I'm able to do it? How do we then take that to hitting the ground? Like you said, you tried door knocking, it wasn't for you. you got to find the 2 or 3 things or 4 things that work for you. What was it for you that, this was like, this was your bag?
Right. I think the creativity, the authenticity of creating the brand was big,
Mm-hmm.
right? So a brand, guys, is not a logo, right? You can there's like so many cool logos and a feel of company stuff where you've hired somebody to give it a look and a feel.
Wait a
And
second. As you're wearing your swag on your head, I
I
just
know
gotta
you
say,
like
which is
that.
a cool. Well, where's mine? I'm just saying,
No,
I want
no,
one.
brother, I'll get you one.
I'll wear it. I don't
Gotta
mind.
get you an EXP, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Got to get you an EXP, or how about even better, Lorne Cooper.
Yeah,
No, you're right. You're right. It's so, but the point is, lots of people have this stuff, but
sure.
there's a difference because your brand is kind of what I'm talking about when I talk about who you're being,
Hmm.
right? So who you're being is your essence, is your soul, right? Just being like outwardly being nice on the phone when you have a hard heart, right? If you could give people enough bullshit as you can
Right.
to get them to buy into what you're saying, good on you. It's like that is not that people know it, especially now.
Yeah.
There's a lot, like the true authenticity goes very deep. It's like your heart, right?
Hmm.
Your heart is this miracle that beats inside your chest. Like you don't charge it every night. You don't get your little thing out, your Apple thing, and plug it in and go, okay, see you in the morning. It's like it just beats for you, right? It just beats for you, and it tells you so much. It's funny because inside of your brand, as you build your brand, so you're asking me, what's the practical thing? Build your brand. Like, what are you good at? So I'm a visual arts type of person. So anytime you've ever seen anything that's been created by the company, except for the actual coding of a website, the design was built by me.
Okay.
Right? So if you've seen a flyer, I actually designed it, laid it out, frequently took the photography, not of the homes. I do have a photographer for the homes, but anything of the team, anything like that. Like I laid it out, I built it, I did that. Recently, I had some help with my social media. I had some layout stuff and
Right.
that just for bandwidth and that, but awesome gal. And but if you've seen it, I laid it out. And so every time I touch something, right, it's authentic. It's coming from me. I didn't hire a company because I'm working on like looking good in a suit.
Right.
I built it, I created it, I looked at it, and then the messaging. This was huge. And this is again who you're being. What's your message? What's your message? What does your company or your business stand for? What is your mission statement? Literally, what is your mission statement? A lot of businesses, it's like, oh, I just want to help people and do my own thing. And like, that's not a mission statement.
Right.
Sit down and write your mission statement. Right? Like, how can you go where you're going without a map? Right? How can you go where you're going without a map? Like, you don't even have a mission statement. You're just like, yeah, I got a cool idea. I'll do that. And being clever, like I know that there was a long stretch of time where people were talking about USPs, unique selling
Right.
propositions, right?
Right.
So I'm not a fan of that at all. That means like I'm gonna bamboozle people or whatever it is with my thing that I'm gonna. It's like no, and maybe it's not bamboozling. It's like it's their offer, right? So I don't want to diminish it. But why do we need to call it? How about your authentic, you know, brand offering that comes from the essence of who you are and who you're being, right? I heard a story years ago from a brilliant guy, broker of record years ago of Remax Hallmark, who now is retired, but he said, there was this guy he knew did a lot of business and he loved his dog, went to the dog park all the time with his dog, got tons of business at the dog park because he was so authentically himself.
Right. In that environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So how can you create that? So for me, when I get inside of like InDesign or Premiere Pro or some of these programs, it just really speaks to me, and I flow with imagery. And like yourself, Lauren, play some guitar, get into it, get the creative juices going, and then how does that all feel, and what is the messaging? This was key for me. What do we stand for? What's our mission statement? And I want to speak that out there. I don't want to say, it's always about the other people, but how do you work together? So in other words, I'm going to do your commission for a 1%. Well, that affects them, and that's a good deal for them.
Yeah.
Whereas when you hire us, we're a trusted, reputable company, local company that would rather close the doors than do anything but protect your very best interests. And I'm just spitballing.
Yeah.
And that's true too. Honestly, I'd shut it down. I'm not looking to make like the next record, whatever. I'm not. It's just shut the company. Like if that's what we're about, if it's about the numbers, then we're coming from the wrong place.
Right.
You need numbers, but those numbers will come the other way. I mean, there's so many examples of it just in real life, right? So you're driving with your wife somewhere, and your wife wants to drive a certain way, and it's shorter or quicker another way. So you can tell her what to do, or you can just allow her to drive her way. And then, and you have peace and harmony and love. And that's so important for your life. And the same
it is,
right? The same thing operates inside of a relationship with a client, right? The Beatles, we can work it out. That's a huge thing, sticks with me. We can work it out. I think of it all the time, because I think in business, it's so big. So somebody calls and they're upset about something that happens. Like, we can work it out. We can always work it out. So when you have that mindset, it's huge. It's huge. So practical steps is awareness of who you are and what your skill set is. If you're best at the table, like you're best at a kitchen table, then you will need help with the creatives. Like, you don't jump on InDesign and try to design something. As a matter of fact, realtors do that frequently, try to do their own stuff. They try to jam too much stuff into one thing, and it's just like this messy thing.
Yes, I agree. But I think if you're right, if you can at least express your authenticity and your message to somebody who has the skill set to then deliver it, rather than going to a creative and saying, design a brand for me, come up with something that I'm supposed to represent, where you're saying, this is what I represent, can you please put this in physical form for me to put out to the world? It's more authentic that way. So you don't have to get in and do, Adobe.
So step one, write a mission statement.
Yeah.
Who have that awareness, right? Who are you being, right? Not what you're doing, right? So people say, I just said this actually in a meeting the other day. So with the team, I said, so one thing that calms me down and allows me to be present, and for a bunch of years, everybody, that sort of the key coined phrase was to have abundance, right? Now it's to be present, right? But being present is hugely important, right? Because then you're here, like I'm here with you, right? And I'm enjoying it, and it's just so much fun. So I thank you for having me. But when you're trying to be present, like we all drift in our brain, right? We're all not present. It's like, hey, I'm always dragged down by the ball and chain of the past, or I'm looking for something in the future. It's like, what about right? So you want to be successful. So tell yourself that. Say, be successful. So as I sit with you, Lorne, and if I think like, be successful, Jay, be successful, I tell myself. Now, what does that mean? What we interpret that to be is, I want to become more successful. And that's not what I mean. I want to create more success. That's not what I want to be successful. Who I'm being is with you on this podcast, and let's make it great together.
Right.
And we can work it out. And just like this whole vibe of goodness, like we're brothers, right?
Yeah.
And that is huge in your business, massive in your business. you know? So tell yourself, just for fun, everybody out there, just as you're going through, you know, you're with your wife and something's going on, just say, be successful. You guys get hit with something. Oh, we got this whole problem we're dealing with in the house or whatever. It's like, be successful. What does that mean? Who are you being? We're going to fly off the handle. We're going to be annoyed because we had plans and now we've got something else that's come up that is going to interrupt those plans or whatever. It's like, no, be successful means be successful now, right? Do it. Because as business people, we kind of need that success terminology to
Right.
fire us up. So I hope that helps as well. And then also grounds everybody to have that awareness to write out their mission statement and know where they stand and who they are so that they can then, as you said, hire somebody and express it so that they can help articulate it through the creative medium.
Right, exactly. So along those lines, if you were to start over again, for whatever reason, you had to start over again in a new town, or you had a nephew that was halfway around the world and you said, you know, I want to get into real estate. What do I do? Number one, you sit down, you figure out who you are, what you want to represent. You figure out your brand, as you put it. At that point, how do you put that into action? What are the next few steps that someone can take to say, I'm doing that right now? What do I need to do to just sort of find my way?
Right. So, you know, just some practical business advice in real estate is that you need to maximize your opportunities big time, right? So it's a very, very, very competitive industry. They all are, right? We never
Right.
want to pretend that our brand of suffering is worse than somebody else's. But for you, Lorne, in music, it's like saying, well, the country music's easier than, like, you know, rock music. It's like, no, they're all hard, right?
Right.
So, or they're all competitive. So when you get an opportunity, you get a listing, you need to work that listing hard. And then there's a lot of great teachings out there around that, like 10-10-20 rule for door knock. You know, you take the listing, and before you even go home, you took the listing, you get out of your car, you knock 10 doors on each side of the house, 20 across the street, to come back to your car, and you tell them about the listing that's coming up and do they know anybody, right? Then you are about to do an open house, when those are allowed again, and you jump out of your car and you tell them you're doing the open house before the open house, and see if you have anybody, let them know, and all that. And then when you sell it, you put your sold sign up, you walk around, they're all curious, I promise you, and you tell them about the sale. And so what you've done there, and if you can make the 10-10-20 more like 200-400, you know, then what you've done is you haven't gone to somebody's house and asked for something. You're just providing information, and the repeated exposure is giving them your feel without actually putting yourself out there and saying, hey, you want to sell your house and I want something from you.
Right.
And anything you can do like that is huge. You know, give, and then you can ask, right? So that's a really important part. A lot of the time when we start in business, it's like, I need to ask. And a lot of people say, well, no, salespeople are afraid to ask, and they are afraid to ask, but you got to time your ask, right?
Right.
You got to time it. You can't, you know, so that's really important. Contribute at a high level and create value, as you say, and lots of people say, Lorne, is very, very important. Maximize the opportunity, right? So just in old-fashioned terms, just sold cards, great, they're awesome. People are always curious about, you know, and then you sold it and all of that kind of stuff, right? You need to, if you're just starting or you're building, you do need to get on the phones and talk to people. You do. You're like, yes, I believe in, you know, in the flow of our divine energy, as you know, and I believe that the power of God in creation that flows through me, and I live there every day, and I always have, and I've connected to it every morning. But then I also talk to a lot of people. I told you about the internet leads. I faxed people to say, are you looking for numbers? Like, there was a lot of that too.
Right. I boil that down to that there's two kinds of business. There's the chase business and the attract business. And, there's different ways of both, but especially when you start, there's going to be more chasing than attracting. And eventually that will start to shift over if you're doing the right things. Would you
You
agree
know
with
what?
that?
You know what I prefer? I like to chase and attract is very black and white, but I prefer earning it. The
Sure.
earning it. So you're gonna earn it. Like you have this feeling where like it's coming. You know it. And remember another thing, guys, when you're working in real estate or in anything really, right? I mean, you are thinking of this and it's something that happens over here, right? And so you're working on all of this stuff over here and something happens over here. This is common. And I actually call this whoops, that's cool. Okay. So and Lorne, that happens in music
All the
all
time.
the time. That's like
Yeah.
music central, right? Like you're playing something, you got an idea, you're locked into how it's going to go because, of course, we're stuck in our head. And then you just open up and you allow it to flow, right? You allow it to flow, and all of a sudden you go, "What just happened? That was awesome. That was awesome. I got to record it." So, right? So, because whoops, that's cool happens. So, allow that to be part of it. We get so locked into like, I'm going to do this, and I have very, you know, specific expectations around that.
Right.
And it's so rigid that when you don't hit them, it's like brutal, like you're shattered, right? It's like, it's just like allow things to flow, allow them to flow, right? Um, don't be judgmental. This is some of the spiritual stuff as well. So you meet somebody and they're really struggling and you show them houses for 3 years. I have shown people houses for 3 years and then they bought with another realtor, right? So the famous stories we've all got, right?
Right.
So what? Did it hurt my feelings? Yeah, it was a single mom. I really cared about her and her daughter, and I showed up all the time. And she called me one day, and she just fell prey to that whole in her mind, like, well, no, I got to look out for us. And sorry, Jay, you're out, right? And that's okay. We all have to sort of justify some of the things that we do as humans. It's just our ego, but you got to let that go. It's just part of it.
Yeah,
A lot
absolutely.
of bitterness and jadedness inside of real estate. Like, don't enjoy it, right? Go have fun. Like, here's another thing as well. I say maximize every opportunity.
Right.
When you're with the clients that you're working with, make it great. And not just like, I got you a gift and and all this kind of stuff. Like, make it great in the moment. When you finish with a buyer, and you've had this intense relationship where you're helping them with a significant purchase in their life for 3 months, 6 months, 3 weeks, whatever it might be. And then now you're not going to see them anymore. Like, not much, right? Sure you
Right.
are, but like, let's be real. Um, you should feel that, and they should feel that. Like, frequently, I'm sure you've had this one where they go, "We're not going to see you anymore." Right? Because they
Right.
love you, right? And so it should be like that. Like, you have a significant relationship. It's not transactional. Imagine sometimes we fall into pray with this with our own loved ones. Like, it becomes transactional, like running a family with 3 daughters and that. It's like, okay, we've got to keep things on a track here. It's very transactional. And you need to have the love, the care, the beauty, the moments of just like, wow, like that needs to happen, and it needs to happen inside your relationships with your clients too. Another thing, when you're with somebody that's difficult to deal with,
Because that
remember,
never happens.
remember that a lot of the time when somebody's mad, they're really just sad. So it's like, you got to try to look at it that way a little bit too. Now, some people are determined to be miserable, and I'm not saying that all of it can always be overcome. We know that. But we can work it out, right? We can work it out is the best approach and then sometimes it is true. Sometimes you do have to let go of circumstances and situations if people are
Right.
looking to do something mean spirited or whatever, like, and it could actually jeopardize your reputation or something. Then you go, okay, like, I'm not looking to have this big adversarial relationship. Like,
Right.
not who I am. So I just don't want people to default to that either, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's good insight. I mean, I've had situations if you've been in this business for any length of time, I'm sure you've had situations where you've come across people that genuinely they're just, not the right fit for you for whatever reason that might be. They could be abusive, whatever the case is. Then yeah, you just need to learn when to walk away. But I think it's good advice to say, when people are angry, a lot of the time they're just upset about something, and if you approach it from that angle, I think it really humanizes the experience.
Yeah, you know what? Some key segue lines, just specific scripting. If somebody's attackative towards you and you need to make a point, you know, frequently that point is made in a way that makes the other person wrong, which means now you're going
Adversarial.
to get into it. Like
Yeah.
we're doing this, right? So, using in all fairness is a nice way to segue into something you want to say. So you say, I appreciate what you're saying. And in all fairness, you say something else, right? You say what you need to say.
Right.
So this is, you're trying to work your way through it as best you can.
Awesome. Well, Jay, we've gone over time by a
No,
lot. I'm sorry for keeping you, but
no,
thank
you
you
know
for
what? It's been so much fun. I hope that I really hope that it penetrates, or it has some, it gives people some assistance.
Yeah, I think it'll have impact on a lot of people out there for sure that haven't necessarily heard this kind of message before. And I think whatever we can put out there definitely helps. We are in the same market, for everybody listening. We're basically in the same market. We are, I guess, competitors, though you're way, way ahead of where I am. But I don't see it that way. I never have. I'm always very, very open to sharing everything that I've got. And hopefully, you definitely shown that you're the same. So everyone out there, reach out to fellow realtors, network, talk to each other, and help elevate the industry and each other. That's what this is all about.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for joining us, Jay.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Lauren.